Today we'll be working through our Unit 7 review. For number 1, we need to do 6 times 2 and 5/12. So there's two ways to set up this problem. One is to take our 6 and multiply it by 2, which gives us 12. And then we can do 6 times 5/12, which gives us 30/12, which with a little simplifying is 2 and 6/12, plus our 12 from the original problem, which gives us an answer of 14 and 6/12, or 14 and a half. Now that's one way to show our work and organize our work. This other one over here is using kind of the same idea as a partial product or the area model. And we do 6 times 2 is 12, and you can see I have my work here in the box. And then we do 6 times 5/12, which again is 30 over 12. Now this time I'll show my work how I make that into 2 and 6/12. Remember, a fraction is a division problem. 30 divided by 12 goes in 2 times, which is 24. When we subtract, we get 6, so our answer is 2 remainder 6. And I like to remind my students that it's QRD. The quotient is the whole number, the remainder is the numerator, and the denominator stays the same. So this ends up equaling 2 and 6/12, and then when we add those together, just as we did previously, we get 14 and 6/12, or 14 and a half. Now number 2 is a little more complicated, but the same idea as number 1. Here we are looking at 7 and 4/5 times 2 and a half. Now one strategy used by a few of my students is to change our mixed numbers to improper, multiply straight across, then we divide, and then we turn it back into a mixed number to find our answer. So that would look like our 7 and 4/5 would become 39/5 times 5/2. Now when we multiply straight across, we get a 10 for the denominator, and here we get 195. Now this actually worked out to be really nice because a denominator that's a 10 makes for a pretty simple division problem. So 195 divided by 10 will go in 1 time, or 10 times if you're doing partial quotient. 9 with a remainder of 5, so we get 19 remainder 5, and as I showed up here at the top for number 1, that QRD, so that means it would be 19 and 5/10, which is the same as 19 and a half. Now this is one of the rare occasions where this actually worked out to be pretty quick. So there's our answer. Now the other strategy is using this box, this area model, or kind of thinking of it as partial product, because we're splitting it into pieces and we're multiplying everything out. Again, as you can see, I have all of my work here, 7 times 2, 7 times a half. I wrote that in this box. We have 4/5 times 2, I showed my work here, and 4/5 times a half. Now what we do is we work our way through, we multiply everything out, we get 7/2. I like to make that 3 1/2. Then we multiply this out, it's 8/5. I like to call that 1 3/5. And then our last one, we get 4/10, which we're just going to go ahead and leave 4/10. So now my next step is I'm going to add up my fractions, and then I'll come back and add up my whole numbers. So I have the problem 1/2 plus 3/5 plus 4/10. Now the beauty of this is it's very easy to find common denominators because they're all kind of right in front of you. This is times 2's, and this stays the same. So when we go through and rework it, it becomes 5/10 plus 6/10 plus 4/10, which equals 15/10, which equals 1 5/10, which can be simplified to 1 1/2. Now that is not our answer, so we have 1.5, and we must combine that with 14, 1, and 3. So 14 plus 1 plus 3 plus my 1.5 gives me my same 19.5 that I found doing it the other way. Now number 3, it wants to explain the strategy you use to solve the problem. I just showed both steps and explained it out, so you would explain your strategy, and then more importantly, you need to explain why you chose the strategy. So it could be something as simple as you might possibly struggle with the mixed to improper and back to mixed, or maybe division is tricky, or maybe you stick to a positive explanation and say you really understand and like this area model or this partial product model because it's nice, it's neat, it's organized, and you can follow along, and it works nicely for all types of problems. So this one's really up to you. I gave you a few ideas to go ahead and work through. And our final question on this page is we need to write a number story that can model 6 times 2 and 5/12. Now 6 times 2 and 5/12 we can revisit up to number 1. And we already know that the answer is 14.5. Now my suggestion is anytime you have to write a number story using fractions, you want to make it an area problem. So very simply put, what is the area of a rug that is 6 inches by 2 and 5/12 inches? It's short, it's sweet, and it does what we need it to do. So what is the area of a rug that is 6 inches by 2 and 5/12 inches? That's all you need, and that works out perfectly for that situation.